All right. So today's webinar is all about maximizing lead spend going into fall and winter here. I don't know about you, but I'm actually excited going into fall and winter, except for I'm like dealing with the cold at the moment here. We're just talking about the transition of kids going back to school and just like being magnets for all the germs that just gets let into our house. So with the exception of the sickness, I'm excited, but as it's on everybody's mind, normally the slowdown of the season here happens, and so let's try to pull on some of Pete's knowledge here to kind of give us some ideas of what we can do, some creative ways to kind of get in the door and maximize our return on leads. Um, my just as an intro for me, I'm the CEO and founder of Contractor Appointments. We do lead generation on a pay per sale basis, a revenue share model, leads and appointments. So it's just all about kind of partnering with the right companies throughout the country. But my guest today is the VP of Sales and Marketing from gFour Marketing Group. Pete, thank you so much for joining us. If you can tell us just a little about you and about your background, that'd be awesome.
Thanks, Sean, and Serena, thanks for having us. We're certainly excited to be here. I think this is a great topic. It's perfect timing to, be thinking about these things as we're getting into this cold season. No pun intended there, Sean. But either way, yes. So I've been doing this now since 2007. Been working, whether it was in the home services as somebody who led a team of sales reps, in a call center, to then graduating from that role to helping a CRM company in our industry by the name of Improve It 360. We helped grow that and learned a lot along the way. And then in the last 4, now going on 5 years, I've been with gFour Marketing. So this topic really hits home because, you've got a lot of opportunity in database management, and you've got a lot of opportunity in your customer relationship, management. So we're excited to get into it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, I think along this topic, I think when I was thinking about topics and even thinking of having you guys on at this time of year, I think it was just a perfect fit for what you guys are naturally doing in the industry, as well as kind of what's seasonality happening here. As everyone knows, the fall and winter lead volume starts to decrease. There's just fewer customers out there looking to do projects. Everyone's more focused on their the holiday season kind of coming up. Everyone's busy with school and all that here. I know my wife and I, in the midst of remodel projects at the moment, are like trying to squeeze everything in before Thanksgiving, even the completion of everything. So there's just some natural pieces of the industry that slows down. So it's all about, how do you keep your sales reps busy? How do you keep them in your team busy as a whole? You've built up this organization. How do you keep them busy? So the first question I had for you, Pete, was just some creative ways or things that companies are doing that you see out there that maximizes their return on their old, or what they call their stale leads from really earlier in the year, whether it was home show leads or, really rehashing and trying to work a database. This is obviously, you've got fewer new leads coming in the door. How do you maximize those older leads? And what have you seen companies really do well?
Yeah. So let's start with this. And it's actually interesting enough that in the last three weeks, we've been at 4 different events. So we've been out on the road meeting with a lot of, contractors, remodelers, and just kind of hearing the pulse from the field. And it seems like, the resounding theme is issued appointments are down, leads are down. They have been for a while. In some markets, they started to see this, even in May. So yes, even though we are approaching the off season, depending on where you live, the winter months, I think we've all experienced such a rush of opportunity in the last 2 years that, we're starting to experience some of the slowdown from that. So there's a couple of things here that we can do. So we like to refer to them as the 4 R's. You may have heard this before. I know it's kind of been, this idea has been tossed around or mentioned on other webinars. But essentially, we call it recycle, rehash, repeat, and referral. And each bucket has a different meaning, and it's a different segment of your database. And so I'll kind of explain to all of them, to you what they all are, and then what we can be doing to maximize opportunity. So we'll start with recycle. So, right, we generate a lot of leads, whether they're from a website or from a program like Sean's or from a home show or whatever they may be. But unfortunately, they don't all turn into a issued appointment because we may not get a hold of them, or they're not confirmed, or whatever the reason is. There's a certain bucket that never even makes it to an appointment, right? So we want to take those leads that are in that bucket that we've never ran a lead on, and we want to continue to recycle those and work those over and over until we can, get those homeowners engaged and get them into a selling situation. So how do we do that? We certainly want to be, touching them, if we can, through the phone. We want to be doing it through emails, and there are certain scripting that really works for these types of leads. For actually each one of these buckets, it's a different script potentially. And again, depending on the size of the organization, oftentimes they will even spin out the call center where this group only focuses on recycle. This group only works on rehash. This group only works on previous customers. And each group has a contact percentage that they need to, hit. They've got a conversion percentage. They've got an issued appointment, close, and all of that, right? So there are certain metrics that you want to track for each. But the recycled bucket, if you continue to work it and you call, you email and call behind it, some guys will even get creative and then we'll do direct mailers, so you could send print newsletters. Again, maybe they didn't sit down because the timing wasn't right for whatever reason. Maybe it was there was a financial situation that arose. I mean, who knows? So we want to do whatever we can to get back in front of those. And if there's a way to re-engage that recycled lead with a direct mailer, that could also be a good idea. There are certain ways that you can leverage mail send, so when it's hitting the home, and then you can have somebody call behind it. Then you can email. You want to kind of stagger your attempts. But essentially, if you're putting efforts towards that and you're continuing those efforts, throughout, then you will start to see a certain segment from your overall issued appointments coming from recycled leads. Rehash, those are leads that you run that don't buy. So they may not buy for price, or maybe it's timing, or there was a competitor involved. Who knows if they're telling us the truth or not. We know that they didn't buy, but just because they didn't buy today doesn't mean that they aren't ever going to buy. So we want to make sure that we are staying in front of them with an offer, or having a second voice potentially reach back out, do a quality check, make sure everything went good in the appointment, and see if there's anything that we can do to earn their business. There was a certain stat that Tim Mush shared years ago, and I'm probably going to bobble this a little bit, but it's something like, if the average close rate is 30% roughly in our industry, 7 out of 10 leads aren't buying. But of those 7, 4 of those 7 unsold leads that we ran appointments on will end up buying the same product or a similar product within the next 12 months. So what does that tell us? That these people are still in the market to buy something that may not be today. So we need to stay on top of them, build trust with them, keep top of mind, so that when they are ready, we are one of the 3 companies that are, out there running the estimates. And, we're doing our best to, keep our competition out and get those deals closed. The third bucket's repeat. So obviously reaching back out to current customers, people that bought from us prior. If we have, additional services that we can offer them, there's a great cross-selling component there. Again, a lot of this is going to be based on, their purchase, what they bought, and there's a certain timing and approach that you can take to that. gFour, Sean, there's a lot of people in the industry who can kind of help set up, when we want to trigger certain communications to go out to be effective. We could talk, definitely a lot more about that. There's also what we call reactivation programs, where you can reach back into your customer base and maybe you look at the last 3 years, okay? And so we go through the last 3 years, we pull that universe, and then we send out a nice little kind of postcard that's got the pre-postage filled out. There's like a little needs assessment. It lists your services, reminds them that we were out there to help them with X. Here are some opportunities that we can help with them in the future. If they respond to this within, the next 30 or 60 days or whatever you want to put that, time frame around, we'll double the offer. So if it was $500, we'll make it $1,000 off or whatever the offer is. Try to create some urgency and then follow up, with email and phone calls to those leads. And then referrals. We've generated more leads than ever these last 2 years. We've brought on more customer relationships than we could imagine. So are we leveraging these relationships for future business, right? I mean, I know we've been very focused on that sexy, shiny new lead, which is great. We still need to be focused on those leads, those hot leads, but there's so much opportunity with this customer base, especially if you're providing a great customer experience and you're doing everything by the book, by the way you set that expectation, and they were pleased, they left you reviews. These are, low hanging fruit opportunities for future business, and or for referrals, right? So we could talk a little bit more about the referral program as we get into this, but those are the 4 main buckets. And if you do all of those things very well, there's a 5th R, their testimonial. It's a review, right? And so the 5th R would be you're getting a review, which we all know the more reviews we get, the higher our conversion should go in each of these buckets because it impacts all of marketing. So relationships, reviews. I mean, we could continue on with the R's forever here, but yes, 4 R's. Those I would say would be some great things to start looking at. I don't know if you guys have, your CRM set up to be able to pull reports for each of those buckets. If you don't, I imagine you could easily get in contact with your account manager at, whatever company you're working with or CRM you're working with, and ask them, hey, is there any way that I could have a custom report built, or could you show me how to build a report that shows every lead that I've generated that's never been converted into an appointment? Okay. And then they show you all of those names. And then I want another report that shows every lead that I've run that didn't buy, your rehash bucket. All of you, obviously, who your customers are. And then, you want to track referrals. But I'm sure they can help you with those if you don't have those reports available. And that would be a good place to start identifying opportunities to start building out your slots for your appointments when you guys come out of the seasonality, or to keep you busy over these next few months.
Well, Pete, I feel like all these things, I think we've all heard those before. Like, we should be doing all these buckets before, but I think it can be just so hard to implement each portion of that. Like, there's a lot of moving pieces in that. And I think it's one thing I know we struggle with internally. There's just always fires to put out, right? The things you're trying to fix. It's sometimes so much easier to focus on the front end, like funnel that we built, to just get more leads in the door. But there's versus tweaking the knobs on each one of those funnels and maximizing those leads that didn't turn into an appointment. It's why didn't they turn into an appointment? And then what's the long tail of the customers who weren't ready to book an appointment now, but we should stay in touch with them because they're still in a buying cycle. They still had interest in our product at some point to fill out a form, at some point that they want to buy in the future. I can't tell you enough about that first part of the funnel from an awareness stage of leads in this industry coming from, we generate 100,000+ leads a month. And a good 30-40% of those are duplicates that we saw earlier in the year or in the last 12 months. So those people go online and fill out a form again because their interest wasn't high enough to book an in-home appointment, or maybe it was, and now they're ready to go closer to the decision-making process. So if you've already bought that lead once and you can nurture it so they don't go back online looking for more estimates, that's huge. But most companies don't do that. can't tell you. I mean, I'm in the lead generation industry, and I've filled out so many forms on Home Advisor's
Yeah.
website and even our own sites, and like the calls stopped coming in. If I didn't answer the phone or I didn't answer back in a text message, the calls and text and emails stopped coming. And like, if you take anything away and it's taking out your CRM data and go, which ones didn't book an appointment, and then texting those customers, emailing those customers on a consistent basis, even just your offers that change, that'd be huge for your return on investment.
Well,
Right.
you're totally right, because you're getting so much more value out of that name, out of that lead.
Mhm.
And the best companies follow these practices because not only do they get more opportunity out of it, I mean, these end up being, very profitable leads, right? Because they're reworking them over and over, like that recycle word, such a strong word,
Yeah.
um, that it's advantageous to be sure that you've got somebody focusing on it, or you've got a campaign that's at least automated, because even if you don't have the workforce to be able to put a body on it today, you've got some kind of backstop in place that's automated. And there's so much technology out there today that help you do these things. It's amazing. Some of these guys that I was just sharing, that we had met over these last couple of weeks, were just talking about how they got into certain networks and they went out to the little vendor rooms where all the sponsors were. And one of the things they did was they latched on to a lot of programs because they thought it would be a more effective and affordable way to grow their business than trying to train and retain new hires and hires and bringing in benefits and all of these different things. So they replaced certain people with programs to do these types of things, like rehash, with a text message or with an email, or customer appreciation and long-term referral programs. There's all kinds of options, and I guess my point is, explore those, because even if it gets you, one or two more sales per month, that's more than paying for the service. And as you get more names into those types of programs, you're starting to really start to see, those benefits pay, fivefold, tenfold. And then you can start to get to the point where you're bringing in people and you're training them on these types of best practices, and they can start to manage these processes now, right? So
Yep.
either way, yes, you definitely need to be, somewhere, on the board with these leads. Or what's going to happen is your competitors in your markets are doing this stuff, and they're going to, either A, clean up house because they're, capturing all this lost opportunity, or they're even invading some of your territory with your customer relationships because you didn't put a strong enough fence up around that
Yep.
relationship. And now they're calling out to that homeowner, and you may have installed windows 2 years ago, and now this guy's trying to put a roof on. But guess what? You do roofing too, but
Yep.
you didn't stay in touch. And unfortunately, we hear it all the time. People drive by the old job sites, or they see signs in the yard. It's like, holy cow, how the heck did we not get that roofing job? We do roofing.
Yep.
Well, these other companies are doing those things that we're talking about. So,
Well, yeah, I feel like we could dive into each one of those R's here just on such a deeper level, overall. And I think, yeah, I think overall, like think so many of these leads are like, again, from a leads, and then making sure you're actually recycling every one of those leads and staying in front of them, to going into the referral side of things as well, which we'll dive into in a second. But before we kind of move on to the next question I have for you here to dive in a little deeper, is just one point of takeaway that I did hear from you that is really a lot of wisdom, is just going to your CRM and building out these lists. Either going to improve it or market sharp or lead perfection. Just build yourself a list of going, these are the leads that didn't turn into an appointment, and are still workable. And here's the the demos, or sometimes even your appointments that were booked that never demoed, your sets to no demos. That's another whole group of people who said yes to an appointment, but for whatever reason or another didn't demo with you. There's another list for you. And then your demos to no sales, and that rehash process as well is staying in front of them. How do you market to each one of those groups a little different? And I'd say the more yeses that they've made along that process, if they said yes to an appointment, spend more money on them. If they said yes to and they actually demoed an appointment with you and you presented a price to them, even more money to try to win them over from a long tail on that side. But find your 3 buckets and to see what even those, I think it's be surprising of how many leads that actually fall into those 3 categories for you right now.
Yep.
The one I want to dive into here most here for us, just for the sake of time, is diving into how companies are using and turning previous customers into referrals. So I think in practice, there's a lot of like different methodologies out there of like asking for the referral, but I think we can all be honest that asking for a referral and doing that process is a little bit unnatural for most people. And then in these sales processes, like your salesperson was in the home and they signed the paperwork with the sales rep and built the rapport and built all that camaraderie with that person to get them to say yes to your company. And then production takes over at that point. And for most companies, sales never shows up again. So who you built the relationship with is different than who you handled the rest of the project management and all that stuff. So who's asking for the referral? How is that best kind of handled? I've heard different companies obviously struggle with the calls afterwards and asking for referrals. There's no relational equity that's built to ask for the referral. So how do you best present the asking for referral?
So great question. And, there's a lot of things out there that we hear. There's a statistic that we share. So 83% of homeowners are willing to leave a referral, but only 29% do. And there's lots of reasons why those numbers are so low, but oftentimes it's because maybe we didn't provide a great experience, or maybe we didn't ask for the referral, or we didn't stay in touch, or whatever it might be. So there's opportunity there. We know that. What we've started to see be really successful, and what we're suggesting when possible, is most of these companies, after the install, are doing some type of a final walkthrough, or they're going through a final checklist. So this may be a project manager or an installation manager. Before I get into this really quick, though, I do want to say, I do think it's the entire company's responsibility to drive referrals, right? It's a culture. It's something that we need to build into everybody, that comes in through that door that we hire. That relationships are important to us. Referrals are important to us. We need to be talking about referrals during our sales meetings, during our production meetings, during our front office meetings, because I think it shares a lot of good stories behind, our customers and how happy they are with us, which gives all of us confidence in our sales ability and our delivery to deliver a great install, or to be able to handle a call, because we do the right things. We've got great reviews. We've got great relationships. So at the end of the day, I do believe it is a referral relationship culture that, the ownership, the leadership team should really drive. But in all reality, when you're in the field and you're in front of the homeowner and you are reading their body language and you're asking these questions and they're telling you, "Oh, we're so happy, Sean. You guys were fantastic. You showed up on time. You were professional, polite," whatever it is, that's when we want to ask for the referral. Because, we want to take, obviously, we want to take control of that emotion and capitalize on it. But when we step away from that job site, sometimes we see things where, "Oh, that's right. I forgot that, when I was walking out to get the mail, I heard this guy say, a bad word or something. That just took a 5-star down to the 4-star." Or you found a cigarette butt in the landscaping, or just little silly things. We want to be able to, stop all of that stuff, take advantage of the emotion. And how you can do this is pretty simple, actually. There are lots of programs where you can send a link right there to the homeowner, like gFour, for an example. We have the ability, we have an app where if the project manager is in front of the customer, they send a quick link. The link now is in possession of the homeowner. They click on it, and it takes you right to Google, Facebook, or the Better Business Bureau. Now, this is I'm sorry, I'm getting into the review piece here, aren't I? So back to the referrals, but you can plant the seed on the referral with the sales rep, right? You can plant the seed with them at the end of the sale. And then one of the things that we see not go well with referrals are people usually only talk about the referrals. Our contractors, when they first come to us, they mention the referral program right after the install. And then right after the install, we have kind of forgotten about it, right? We've got weeks that go by where we don't even mention the referral opportunity again. So we want to be sure that we are sticking with the customer long term to remind them and show up, right? And we need an excuse to remind them that, we're a reputable company, that we appreciate referrals and that we reward referrals. In fact, a lot of customers will run contests, where it's a quarterly contest, and it's just really another reason for us to show up and to remind our customers about all these great things that we're doing. And we use that contest as, the point of, asking for the referrals, and then we integrate the referral rewards program into all of our long-term nurture. So it's definitely a long-term play. Referrals don't just happen, right after the sale or after the install. Oftentimes they will come 3 months down the road, 5 months down the road, 5 years down the road. So it's important to stay in touch with your customers and keep reminding them about all of these great things you're doing. That's really the biggest opportunities we see, is people give up on the referral so quickly, and then we don't really drive a lot of awareness to the referral program. So yes, we may have something on our site or maybe in our signature block, but it's not really getting people's attention. That's not enough. We need to, be more proactive and make sure that, our customers are familiar with everything we're doing to promote the referrals.
Well, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on incentivizing referrals and the success there and how most companies do it. You're talking about, obviously you can do contests, but I mean, planting the seed along the way of the sales rep, of, even while he's in the home or she's in the home, of saying, this project is going to cost $10,000, but we do have one way of discounting it on top of others, that, you can get $300 off for every referral that you make. If you're really happy with us, even after the project is started, you pass us off to somebody else, we'll give you $300 off. And I've seen that work. I've seen other companies that they just kind of like mention it off the cuff and never follow up with it. And then it just never happens. And then the referral happens naturally and no one ever gets any compensation for it. And it's so.
Sorry to interrupt, Sean. Sorry to interrupt, but where you're going, I just want to make sure I drive a point through this, because we see a lot of funky things where, people get really creative with referral programs, but then we give them a bunch of hoops to jump through. Yeah. And most people don't really want to go to all that extra work, right? And you want to make it really simple. You send us a name and we run the appointment, we are going to reward you, regardless of the outcome. Now, that's kind of a different idea. A lot of people like to pay out on a referral only if they buy. But what we found is when you reward the appointment, and we're talking about a qualified appointment, and most people aren't going to go out of their way to send you names that aren't qualified, that are not interested in your products. So there's not a lot of bogus stuff out there. But as long as your rep is running the appointment and they show up, we're going to send a check for $25 or $50 or whatever it is, regardless of the outcome. So at the end of the day, it's not the person's job who's referring you to close the deal. It's your job. It's their job to get you in front of a qualified buyer. And we've seen, by doing this and eliminating that one last hurdle of the outcome, 6 times more referrals come in to our customers than they did when they based the reward on the result of the appointment. So just a suggestion. Now, it's not to say that you couldn't say, I'll give you $25 for each referral, and if they end up buying, I'll give you 50. Or, you can incentivize the purchase even more if you like, but you should always incentivize the appointment, make it really simple, and then make a big deal out of it too. Like, you should acknowledge every referral with a nice handwritten letter, slide a check in there, making sure that it's coming from the owner so they see how important this is. And that will be a tremendous, opportunity for you to get more referrals when you start to, do those little things like that people really appreciate. Sorry to interrupt.
I like the written letter, and the appreciation for the referral on that side of things here too. I think it's always a hard ask from an emotional, like, ask for another referral after a good job. I mean, some people feel like that's entitled and that you should be able to do that. You're incentivizing it, all that kind of stuff. But people are busy, and it is kind of an awkward little thing, of being able to do that. I think we're all very much evangelists for things that we believe in, overall. And if we are really excited about the end result and the end product, it's pretty natural for us to refer, to other companies. But sometimes I think from my own experience in the home improvement industry, when you're disconnected from, that emotional, excitement. And just as you said, if you find someone whose body language and they're excited about your product, asking for a referral feels natural. I like the final walkthrough, and that person being responsible for that portion of it. It makes sense on that side of things to be able to ask for it when necessary. So, that it kind of leads me to my next question here is very much related, is asking and gathering reviews. You kind of touched on that a little bit. Is that, just kind of briefly scan over that here. Is that kind of where you see that final walkthrough? That's the time and space to go ask for that review, and then make it super simple for them to like fill out that review when you're there.
Right. Yeah, sorry. I got a little excited there ahead of myself, but you're right. That's where we think there's lots of opportunity for the review today is in person when you can.
Yep.
And then if you can't, if you're doing the right thing, and what I mean by that is, most of these homeowners, depending on the service, are spending, let's call it $10,000 with us, right, on average. And even if they're spending less, you want to show up and say thanks, right? You can send them a thank you card. You can send them a custom box with whatever you like. But when you do things like that, we have seen within our own customer set that there's a 350% increase in reviews when you lead with a thank you. So if you aren't capturing that that review in person, this appreciation package shows up, within the next week. And now, again, you have another backstop for the review. Yep. Because if you weren't able to capture it, now you've got something here that's saying thank you. It reminds them again of this great experience. They weren't expecting you to show up and say thank you because, quite frankly, no one really does that today, even though most of us should be doing it. Even if it's just a card, say thanks. It's more personal to get something in the mail than it is in an email. The law of reciprocity shares that if you do something nice for somebody, in return, they will do something nice for you. And that means leave you a referral or leave you a 5-star review. Or if for some reason they're still not 100% satisfied and maybe they've been thinking about going online, or maybe there's an unresolved issue out there, whatever it might be, oftentimes we also see these backstops and these requests in person handle some of those negative situations where we can take it offline, we can bring it to the right people, internally to make sure that we're resolving the solution before that customer were to go online and leave something negative, which, certainly would impact our rating and all of that. So we want to do our best to be proactive with the language and make sure that, we're preventing those things from happening. We can't gate reviews. Obviously, you gotta let them go in as they go in, but we can do our best to make sure that people understand that if they aren't absolutely thrilled with the service that we provided, we want to know about it today so that, contact us now and we'll take care of everything we need to, right? Those types of, that type of wording certainly will help you prevent some of that stuff from going online. But reviews are definitely, I was just, again, I'm going to keep going back to some of these recent discussions I've had in person. I was just talking to a guy who, he's got like over 1,000 reviews. He's a little bit larger, but he was just saying how he won't go online and buy like a bottle of shampoo without reading all of the reviews, and that's a $10 shampoo. And even if that certain shampoo brand has 1,000 reviews, but this guy's got 5,000, and the 1,000 guys, he's really getting into it. And I'm like, I agree, because when I buy things that are a lesser value than a home improvement job, and let's say I don't get like a notification that I purchased this, there isn't like a confirmation that the package is being sent. After a couple of days go by, I'm starting to wonder, did I make the right decision? Did I buy this from somebody who's gonna, am I gonna get ripped off here? And again, this is like something that's invaluable really in the big picture. It's not like a big home improvement job. So the review component is obviously extremely important from the front end, and quite honestly, to getting those repeat customers to come back and those referrals, people are going to come and look at your site and look through all those. Yep.
Well, I feel like it not only helps, and it builds the credibility, on for the next sale. And I think the review, like the question I think would like, are reviews better than referrals? Like, or equally as valuable? It's like, what do you go for first? Asking for review, making sure you get the reviews before you get the referrals, or the reviews today are just so valuable to every business that's out there. You need to know who your confidence is. And I think it is interesting in the home improvement industry specifically, is you can, like, the companies who have more star reviews out there, just from my own research of home improvement companies doing projects on my own home, like the companies who have more star reviews charge more. And I think you want to raise up your nets at your overall, ticket size. You get more reviews out there, and you can ask it. You can ask for that dollar amount just because you have the credibility behind you. I think we all, even when we're buying a $10 shampoo bottle, we all don't want to feel like we're ripped off, and we all want to make sure we feel like we are making a decision that just feels more confident. And I think reviews today are, Amazon still, I'll still pay an extra couple bucks for an Amazon reviewed item that is, has more, reviews on it. So I think we all will do that, even thousands of dollars more, for somebody who we trust more.
Well, they say there's two types of people that leave reviews: somebody who's just ecstatic about their experience, and then somebody who's just absolutely furious. Right. So a satisfied customer can be risk. I mean, if they're just saying, if you take a survey and they're saying, oh, we're satisfied, you might think that person's kind of on the line. Right. So this is, again, back into this creating raving fans, delivering that great experience, taking the next step. And again, a lot of these companies on this webinar today are doing those things. They've been doing those things. They stepped up when things got really tough during the pandemic. They took the precautions, but they pushed through. They serviced a lot of customers, even though we had challenges with backlog and whatever, right? We deserve these referrals. We deserve these repeat business opportunities, because we worked so darn hard to get in there in the first place that by the time this homeowner's ready for a bath or whatever it might be down the road, we should be the one back in that house. So that's why we're talking about a lot of these segments in your database that we need to be focusing on, because they're great areas that are just prime for opportunity for you to plug in, leads for your reps, to keep your reps happy, to get them, quite honestly, these relationship leads close at a very high rate. They usually have a larger ticket value associated with them. So anyhow, kind of back to the whole lead generation thing, it all does play a big component. And the last thing I'll say about reviews is, if you do not have your reviews streamed to your website, you definitely want to look into that. Most of your web, develop, these your companies that you're working with, should be able to help you with that. There's a lot of different plugins. They're really affordable. The value, I can't even really put a dollar amount on it. It's so valuable because once you get that prospect to your site and they're reading everything about you and they're learning about your story and your services, the last thing you want them to do is leave your site to go find reviews if you don't have them listed on your site. So there's a way to get those reviews to your site to where they can see John and Jan Dabbelt from Fort Wayne, Indiana, left a 5-star review, and it was on Google, and the date was September 29th, 2022. All of those pieces are really important because people want to know that it's a real person and it's verified by the platform. And the date nowadays, if you look at your site and your reviews haven't been updated for a year, or in some cases I look at sites and they haven't been updated for years, they may not have dates associated with them all. People start scratching their head and wondering, I wonder when that was. I wonder if these guys are still doing a great job out there. But when you eliminate that and you show last week's date, today's date, or whatever it is, it's like, holy cow, look at these guys. Just in the last week, they provided five-star reviews, five-star experiences for people in our neighborhood or in our city. These are guys I want to work with, right? That will certainly help you convert more leads. So do your best. If you need help or suggestions, you can call us. We can certainly help you with that kind of stuff, but it's a best practice, and it certainly will help you increase your website, your web form conversions, and get you more leads there as well.
Absolutely. Well, last thing I'll touch on here today is I think something that you mentioned earlier here was just all this idea about these raving fans. I think honestly, within the home improvement industry, it's always about kind of going after the new customer and the new lead. And we kind of prime the funnel. We talk about, raw leads and sets and demos. We've got that intake funnel figured out, overall to get in our sales reps into as many demos as possible. But then there's the inverted funnel at the bottom of that of trying to how do you make all your customers, if you're going to be in a market for any length of time, which I think everyone wants to be in the market for, in their geographic area for a length of time and to build their business for the long haul, how do you make your company's brand known? You can show up at all the shows and show up at all the events, but every customer you make knows a bunch of people. And how do you make every customer a raving fan? And you touched on a few things there of it's about how you treated the customer throughout that whole build process and communicated with them. And, were they getting the notifications that their package was delivered and you followed through on what you said you were going to do, and that their delivery was, that the materials were delivered on time, and your production manager gave them an exact construction timeline, and they felt secure. They knew when the build was going to happen and when it was on time, and everything was cleaned up afterwards. Was it an amazing experience from a production standpoint? Was it an amazing experience from an in-home sales perspective? And was the ease of simplicity of purchase there? So there's all of that all together obviously makes somebody satisfied. But how do you stay in touch with them and make raving fans? And I think I personally always think about, I've got a realtor that I bought my home 10 years ago, actually today, which is pretty crazy. So I bought my home 10 years ago from a realtor, and I still we get 4 invites a year to events like movie theater screenings and, free pumpkins every fall and all these things that we get a letter in the mail from him personally of just how the industry is going. And so a personal handwritten letter. And then once a month, he also sends out a mailer with a coupon to a local restaurant here too. It's he's doing all these things to create raving fans of him, because he looked at and said, I only need 200 customers because they'll be repeat business for me down the road. And I thought that was so fascinating that as a realtor, he was doing far above and beyond. He's one of the best realtors in our metro area from a volume standpoint, because he's investing into that relationship with each customer who did say yes to him once. And I want to, from a takeaway standpoint, how do you create raving fans? Is you stay in touch with your customer or your prospective customer, and make sure that you are top of mind, because I'm not buying a house from anybody but him, because he's already invested so much in that law of reciprocity. I've gotten free pumpkins for him, so he's going to make a lot of money in commissions off my next real estate transaction. How do you create a reciprocity with your current customers there too? And you're on mute there, Pete.
Oops.
There you go.
Yeah. So, and on top of that, how many people have you told that story to?
Oh, ton.
So, I mean, I would imagine if you had a friend moving to town or a family, you would refer this guy, right? Because you trust him. He's top of mind. He's provided everything that you've asked for, and he's gone above and beyond. And that is, I think a lot of times in our industry, when we talk about customer experience, we talk about all the way up until the job's complete. And then we've done our job. Now it's time to move on to the next one. They had a great experience through everything along the way. We had great communication. And I imagine in most cases that's true. But this is not a transactional business. This is a relationship business, right? And we need to start doing better jobs building relationships and continue that experience post install. So there are things that you can do. Again, you can do these things yourself. There are services out there that can help you. Again, this is not a plug for gFour, but we can certainly help you with this or point you in the right direction. There are a lot of people, I think, that know this as well. Like, this isn't, I imagine, some kind of crazy idea that we just came up with here. I think a lot of people are aware that these are things we need to be doing. It's just they're not always at the top of the priority list. We don't have maybe the resources or skill sets internally to do it. And so you want to show up and provide value. It's not, again, this isn't always about, and again, yes, the long term is to get more revenue, but we don't want to just show up with discounts and talk about windows and doors, because quite frankly, people don't care about that stuff. They want to see more from you as a business. What are you guys up to? They want to know more from the owner, so we encourage you to position your communications from ownership's point of view. So when the homeowners are talking to the top of the business, they feel like they have your attention. They're very open and honest. So if you're going to do something yourself, I would suggest it looks like it comes from ownership or the GM or someone like that, president. And then have quick little messages that are all about building relationships, like just checking in, and then integrate the referral program into it. You remind them of the referral program and how important it is. Do an email newsletter, and don't have the email newsletter be all about your products and certain offers and pricing and discounts, right? You can have a little section about that, but then show up and provide some value with recipes or fun facts or trivia, or whatever is kind of fun and unique, where they actually look forward to receiving this stuff. And again, guys, we know they're not going to print this off. I mean, maybe some of them will and hang it on the refrigerator. It's really about that 2-minute impression every month where you're showing up, reminding them that, hey, we're here to be your contractor for life. We value our relationship, and we want to hear from you if there's anything we can help with. So not just even for repeat business, but if they are in a conversation, just wherever they may be, dinner, at a kid's sporting event or something along those lines, they are thinking about you. And if someone's in the, mentioning how they are looking to get a new bathroom done, it's like, oh, you're now top of mind, where, the reality of it is, if we don't do those things, they forget about us. They forget who we are. I mean, I can't tell you how many times over the last 20 years we've been homeowners, we've had a new roof put on multiple homes, and it's always nearly impossible for me to remember who I used, because usually in those instances when I went to get a new roof, I wasn't referred by somebody. I just went out and did a random search. They had 3 guys come out. I picked, the one I was most comfortable with, and then I just kind of moved on, and life happens. I mean, I have 3 kids. It's not my job to remember the roofer. It's their job to make sure that I don't forget about them. And I did. So I couldn't refer them or buy from them again. And then last but not least, I would show up in the mail again, whether it's with a little newsletter or some kind of maybe one pager. You don't have to overdo it, but you can get as creative as you want. And if you think about it, that's kind of like a piece of media that you own that you can have total control of. You can do certain inserts with, maybe certain products there where you can get a little bit more salesy, but then show up with, again, value added content that just keeps you top of mind. Like you mentioned, the real estate vertical, they do a really good job at this. I
Yep.
too had a realtor that did something where he crushed it in our particular neighborhood, and he gave us a neighborhood update at the end of every month. Like, here's how many homes are listed. Here's the average sale price. Here's this, that, and the other. But he always, added, like, what to me was fun stuff, like, crossword puzzles or fun facts about our little town or whatever it was. And I don't know. I mean, I enjoyed that. Maybe not everybody will, but not everybody has to, right? It's if you're doing those things, you're going to create more customer engagement. You're going to start to fill in more of these, appointment slots with relationship leads that are going to close high. That are very profitable lead sources. So those are some suggestions. I'm sure there are plenty of other ideas, but you want to differentiate, right? You don't want to rely too much on email. You want to kind of, be in the mail, be on the phones when you can, and also, hit them up digitally.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think this, Pete, this has just been fantastic. I feel like I appreciate you being able to dialogue this stuff with us. Like you had mentioned, a lot of the stuff, we've heard maybe before or bits and pieces of it, but putting it into practice is something completely different. Um, Obviously, that's a lot of what gFour does here. So, I want to give you kind of a plug of how can people reach out to you guys if they want to just learn more or get to know you guys. At what you can do or possibly plug some of these holes in their businesses. Where would be a good place to be able to find more information?
Yeah. You can find us at gfourmarketing.com. We do a lot of industry events. We work with probably a lot of the manufacturers that you guys are offering. So there's probably some great incentives we can even put your way. But a lot of what we do is certainly what we call done for you marketing, where you guys don't have to lift a finger. We need a digital logo and a headshot photo, and we do the rest. So you can continue to do all of what you guys do best. But even if you're just wanting to get some best practices to learn more about how you can implement some of these, on your own, we're here to provide as much information. At the beginning of the call, we were discussing how we're here to help each other, right? As this person grows and this person grows and our industry continues to do well, we all do well. So, we'll be more than happy to provide suggestions, to make introductions to clients that are doing things like this, that, some of your peers that you may want to talk to see, what they're doing for their referral program or how they've been able to leverage their database or customer base to get more, revenue sold and more appointments booked. We certainly have access to a lot of great resources for you. So I encourage everyone to start thinking about these opportunities now before, you get into these parts of the year, because it's always good to be in front of it. And again, whether you have the time or, you feel like it's better to have somebody else help you, there are, plenty of options out there, that this industry provides for you guys to be successful in doing all of these things. So
Yeah.
it's a great opportunity if you haven't yet tapped into those databases. And if you need, depending on some of the CRMs, we've got great relationships with all of the ones that Sean mentioned, plus others. I mean, we can certainly, go to bat with you and get some of these reports from some of our partners. Some of this stuff, shouldn't take, more than a little bit of effort. And I imagine maybe some of this stuff may already be created for you and you may not even be aware of it. It could be a report that you haven't even accessed yet. So
Yeah.
we can certainly point in the right direction there to save you some time.
Yeah, 100%. Well, again, thank you all for joining us here today. Pete, thank you again so much for your time. And thank you all for joining us.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week.